Okay, this is WNDC. WNDC stands for We in the Crib and You Ain't. NDC. Therefore, it's now called WNDC in DC because that's where I'm at, and I'm in the crib and you ain't. And this music is provided by fair use of the link is in the exceptions over there. And I'm not really sure how this transmission. Hey Malik, I forgot to give you my number, man. I'll give it to you on Instagram. Just shoot me a message, man. My bad. Good seeing you today. So we got Oprah, Meghan, and Harry. How very, very scary that we find ourselves once again captivated by the story of the life and the struggles of the old world and the reality that the new world exists because they're the fruit of everyone's loins, be it good or bad, happy or sad. It's what it is today. The struggle of a time where this is the age of Aquarius, this is the millennial, this is the that era in time that even Nostradamus lost his mind as he thought about the possibilities of how can this even be possible and where will they be as whom they are, and therefore let me get over here to this chat. I'm not really sure if you can hear this music. If you can, wonderful. I know you can't on Instagram, but if you can go to my YouTube, you can get the whole full program of what's going on. You basically are just a backup. The last two times, it's been too much energy to such a degree that it didn't even record. It wasn't even let me. But it is on YouTube. Now, I watched it. I came in the middle a little bit, but I caught a lot of the other things through the comments that I follow through my friends and followers on Facebook and whatnot. And as I'm sitting there and I'm watching, there was a certain moment in time that I expected it to be, as many people who were looking on expected it to be, it's just them people, this, that, and the other. But, being empathic and honest, this was gracefully done from an American standpoint. I'm not even sure how much of Oprah's broadcast is actually being allowed in the UK right now. Keep that. So for all of you, if you want me to see any of the comments or anything that may exist as you're trying to, be entertained, enlightened, or educated, through this, and I hope that you can find my my Cash App and see if you can throw me a couple of trinkets, because nothing says thank you like cash. And we all can use a blessing right now, and technically speaking, until our theatrical world and the rest of the world opens back up, I can't. Hey Kenny, how you doing, bro? Yeah, so here I am I'm attempting to go live on, excuse me, having my beer. I love my beer. I should be on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the same time right now. As long as I get the bandwidth, I can. Once again, this is We in the Crib and You Ain't NDC. WNDC. NDC. I'm not sure if the music is coming in well or if my voice is coming in well, but I'm just going to let this one go and I'll adjust. But here's where I'm at. Okay. Picture a world. Picture a world led by so many other different generations of power. We've got the Princess and the Pea. We've got We've got Snow White. We've got thousands and thousands and thousands of years of what made Harlequin romance lots of money before we got the soap operas. And here we are now in this reality where all eyes have been on us, but this subject and this little thing is really enlightening, entertaining, and educational due to the mere fact that this is not just a tale of two stories. This is a tale of the reality that Americans have been living in their own little private Idaho without a lot of people realizing how well that our troubles have affected everyone else's ability to have any form of sympathy or reasoning behind our struggle as New World people. And so as we go back in the timeline with Oprah and Meghan and Harry, keep in mind that we're also going back at the same time that a lot of us pre-COVID, right before that, we were also being bludgeoned with the struggle of yet the same issue that America has been basically built on, and that was race. Even though, while we'd like to take personal possession of this whole race thing, the other two areas, the Vatican and the Queen's England and Washington, D.C., makes the trilogy. And here we are now trying to observe how things are changing for everyone. This is not just a cuisine of sorts only for the special people. This is a total worldwide change. And we're seeing it live in color. Just in case you felt a little too personal with the pain that's been going on in this world, you get to see the rest of the story. I like to call it, I'm an old 60 Minutes kind of fan. And so, hey, Sydney, so I tend to play with the theatrics of it. Therefore, I'll be Paul Harvey. And this is the rest of the story. Now, the deep part about this is just the mere fact that, a lot of people really felt a certain kind of way when it came to, when it came to the whole, the Prince and Diana. And that was the epiphany of everything. And nobody saw the outcome of what it came, but it reaped some very interestingly good redhead children. And you never would have thought that white bread would have that much melanin in there to actually get something and create something like Harry. And Harry found it very scary to think about trying to go back to the left when even the Queen herself stated that this is not necessarily a race thing. We always make sure that we keep our bloodline with a certain level of melanin. And yet we're the great white ruler in history that goes so far back that they were the creators of such abominations as King James himself, and yet they made him the last queen of England, made him the last queen of the old world. Now follow me now. So the fruits of the loins of somebody that was so bad that he had to create pilgrims who had to take his bastardization of what he wanted to live in his new life, as he just made up all of this and Othello and all these other things like that, all came to America with or without Eddie Murphy. And for some reason, somehow, some way, here we sit in the middle of this shiznit, watching how, while what you saw being told from their own perspective, as they hold full disclosure for the mere fact that they come from the old world, the world that even people here don't necessarily even, exist there. And therefore, follow me where I'm going with this. And so we find ourselves with, Diana's baby boy, Harry, falling in love with this Meghan chick. And this Meghan chick, had you not been told before her genetics, you would have never been able to guess that she was white or black. She was one of those little things that up until it was known that there was some form of dark genetics involved all willy-nilly. Most people didn't really have a say what they did all day, every day. That was just the queen and her thing. But now we get to the point where Harry and Meghan are sitting there and they're trying to tell the story of how you think it's bad to be an American and deal with race. You should go where they were and realize that they have such a dominance in how they believe and keep things to be that while you might say that you're just the same way that they are, there is nothing that you could honestly imagine that changes the way they live in the UK. Because, hey, the biggest issue that I find with all of this is just the mere fact that at a point when many people giggled about, Lord, please, let's pray for poor little Meghan. Let's let her not end up like Harry's mama. And yet, there's a certain elegance that was brought up into here. And this is where the slightly Masonic kind of twist in this really comes in, because she said it with her own mouth when she said, now, I am a woman of society, of chaste society, and that's what Harry meant. But what we forget is that back in our society as people of color, there used to be a certain elite group of people who would have these customs that they would train their people into, Masonically speaking. And therefore, hearing that, well, whatever debutante training we would have hoped that her mother got for Meghan in order for her to get Harry, which is the ultimate of prizes as the princess, was not necessarily in the same order. And she was ill prepared to actually be at that level of grace and protocol. And yet nobody was coming to her to tell her anything. They expected her. They set that little girl up because, you should be like everyone else. I don't see why we even allow people of such lower class to be here. And yet, there's a time when you realize that there are people that know this. There's levels of even debutante where, you really wasn't something unless you knew how to set a full table with more than just 4 or 5 pieces of silverware. And never would you be caught with the wrong fork or spoon in your hand while eating certain courses of meals that they indulged in. Now, imagine this at the queen level. Now you up here with and they do you're free, my queen, and they're going, do I pick it up with the left, to pick it up with the right? They set me up with the fucking, hold on, man. Y'all expecting me to do this? Okay, I would like that, but can I get a little help? And this, that, and the other. And nobody really wanted to do that, just in the same way that nobody in all the other stories of royalty wanted Cinderella or anyone else to win in this ultimate love affair that everybody dreams of by way of, the princess, is found and saved and found her prince. And now they are set for royalty. And they're a part of the royal family, and they're representing. This ain't no out anywhere. This is to death do us part. And that's how Harry's mother died. And people don't quite understand how deep this was, because the hate, the disgust, and the great white supremacy, and they're not necessarily doing it because they really hate us. They're doing it because that's their hood, and that's what they did, that they believed was all in good. You just didn't go to Rome, win in Rome, do as the Romans, win in France, do as the French. When America, do it the hell if you want. And yet, we're talking about a really interesting conundrum, because this is the second time that we've got some romantic kind of stuff or whatever that only the Brits really give a fuck about. They, and yet here we are, and we're dealing with, a little more of the Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. Now, I want to give you the rest of it from the black hand side, because this is where it goes into, because as you notice, no disrespect, but it was Oprah, Meghan, and Harry. Now, understand what I'm saying, because I'm not being disrespectful, but you have to understand that if we're going to, in National Women's Month, or whatever this is, whatever they call it, National Women's History Month or something, that they've got a newfound little thing. I think it's very, very important for us to understand that the brilliance of this production being on when there was absolutely nothing else on the major channels that you really want to watch anyway. And so it caught most people off guard. They didn't think that they were going to like it or anything, but tell the truth, hey, now this is what I'm loving. This is what I'm loving right here. This is what I'm here for, Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, so I've got France in the house. France in the house. Now, follow me now, because this is some really entertaining stuff, because this is what the world is watching right now, because we have to form this new perfect union in whom we are as millennials and beyond and whatnot, because, next thing for us is space, the final frontier. So hear me. Now, so here we are, and the story of Meghan, because while anyone else would want to talk about anything else that made this child so valuable that the Prince of England came all the way to America like an Eddie Murphy movie, fell in love with her and took her back home. Only home wasn't really feeling her like, even in coming to America, they was cool with it. This ain't that cool. And realizing when I heard Harry try to be real graceful when he said, I knew that it was something when they told me that I had lost my personal security. And hey, I'm Diana's baby boy. I thought that if nothing else, if my child and my wife lost their security, then mine would be intact, because I'm a royal. No, they was like, nah, bro, you want out? Your grandma said you got out. All right. It's just protocol, because that's the way, they was back in those days. I mean, hey, they didn't treat King James any better after he showed his whole entire ass. But there's another portion of the story, so I'm hoping that somebody out there finds some of this theatrically good and some kind of brilliance of our history on the big show. This is, once again, the history of humanity evolving as we become more human in our abilities to be. The thing that Nostradamus went crazy because he couldn't even think or believe, clutch his pearls, to even understand how we are. And here it is. We're connected on a one-to-one basis right now. And thank everything that's been here that this is what we are supposed to have right now. So pay attention. No matter how you might feel about, man, I don't like this, that, and the other, understand the same moment that they were going through all the things that you see being happening, where the queen herself was so up in her feelings and the whole bureaucracy of the old world was so, oh, hell no, not my daughter, too kind of mentality, that it created this at the same time we were going through Black Lives Matter. Now, understand, we've been going through a few more of these things all the time, and the louder we get, the more that the world gets. But when the world gets it, and they don't, not my house, not my this, that, and the other, and it's in their house too. The old world is now reaping the new world's problems too, because we came over here with yours. And now you have to understand that there is no, look, you crusty little pasty people out there are going to have to really totally let go this thing of this need for a bread of you to be so crusty and dusty, to understand that you cannot really honestly hold any level of supremacy due to the beginning of the humans on this planet anymore, without realizing that there will be no more pure anythings. And that also means that you just don't play uppity. It used to be, I believe that it was light-skinned dark people's fault, and that's what we're going to call this, this issue. And the problem that I'm seeing more than anything else is the mere fact that, a lot of people have got their own kind of thought about these people, especially when they're living in their lives and their place and their home and their neighborhood, where, if man, Harry and all of them people, they ain't this, that, and the other, and yet not really understanding that What was so deep about this whole situation is the mere fact that never in my life would I've ever believed, and I know a little bit about security and protocol and all this other stuff, to be able to keep you in this. But when they sat back and they said, at the time that Harry and Meghan and their baby was told by, the UK, the Queen, and the British rule and everything else, that look, man, you on your own, we ain't paying for your security. We still paying for Trump's security, to the day he dies, and we don't even like him. And yet, I'm like, damn, this is really deep. How bad must they? And it wasn't personal. It's just business. And so when they were so shocked about this whole thing, that the most humorous part of this all is on the same era and time that we found ourselves with, being graced with the recreation of Coming to America and some other stuff like that. This actually turns into Coming to America, and the storyline comes with, now this is how my life got turned all the way down, and now I'm a prince in California. Only he's not Will Smith, he's Prince Harry. And what's so very, very scary is the mere fact that how they got there at moment's notice was due to the mere fact that Tyler Perry offered his environment enough to at least get them as far as they did before he was able to get sponsorship in the whole nine and get his shit back together. Because technically speaking, his mother left him a nice sum of money, in our inheritance when she was killed. My bad. And no disrespect to my man Harry, or no disrespect for this Meghan chick, and definitely no disrespect to Oprah. And say hi to Stedman. He loves himself some me. But in the process of all this whole situation, where I'm at with this situation is that, I'm sitting there and I'm watching these children like they're our children, and seeing how they're sitting back and they're talking about how, she asked her about how hey, so Prince Harry, how are you with your grandmother? How are you with the Queen? Well, we talk very often. We talk actually more now that we're apart than we did prior when I was there. This is okay. So what about your father? I'd like not to talk about that. We are working it out. And that's some real stuff, because you have to realize that here we are living in a state where feminism is not a bad word, and yet they're coming from an area where their whole entire structure is on this great white male power, and yet the Queen runs all of it. Mostly doing drinks. God save the Queen. And yet, we're in this not my daughter kind of mentality to such a degree that I'm just watching this and I'm going, man, is anyone else watching this evolution into this age of Aquarius thing to a certain point where even if it might seem like doom and gloom for people regionally, the evolution of humans, Homo sapiens itself on this planet, seems to be headed towards a wonderful place that it never was 2,000, 15,000, 26,000 years ago. And wouldn't you know, Oprah's going to come back after she probably checks this video and a few other things and try to go into the next level of what, if you weren't paying attention then, you pay attention now. Because this is what your children and your children's children will have to deal with if we're not capable of actually enlightening, enhancing, and educating everyone around us too. And a way of understanding, okay, we missed Black History Month, but Black History Month also came with the story of Oprah, Meghan, and Harry. And we need to really understand that we cannot keep walking over these things just because it seems like we're being forced to. Why do I have to be forced to for something that my ancestors, committed those crimes? I didn't commit those crimes. I just inherited this other thing, and I'm a good shepherd, and you should be good sheep. And yet, I can't keep from thinking how at that moment you sitting back and you're the prince, you're the next You could be king. You could be this, that, and the other. You're the greatest of all whiteness. And yet, just like a whole lot of other people in our lives, we can sit back right now. And a lot of us are going through a lot of traumas due to a lot of the drama that we've had, Oh, I've got that we got to get therapy for. You understand what I'm saying? We got to get therapy for, due to, man, everybody's got, skeletons in their closet. Everybody's had bad families. There's nothing like when your family kick you out. There's nothing like, you being the bachelor son. There's nothing like, well, all of us have those kind of things. It's just some of them, hide them more, and some of them, and we now find ourselves in a place where there's almost no genetics or race that, hey, Jody, that exist anymore. They can't find through Ancestry.com some portion in their lineage where their family and their bloodlines were not so honorable or pretty or whatnot. I mean, we've all done some very interesting things to get to a point of where we are right now. For the first time, I'm actually being capable of speaking to many of you out there on a one-to-one basis without anyone else feeling the need to actually cause a national uproar. Back in the day, there were people who fought for the queen, fought for this, that, and the other, and how, the other people would dominate this, that, and the other, and they say, give me your daughter, and he will be with, and she will be with my son, and this, that, and the other, but she doesn't like him. Well, it doesn't matter, and I'll take a few goats and a couple of, chickens, and we've now evolved to the Meghan and Harry story. And I think what a lot of people are missing right now, today, 2021, is the mere fact that as we sit here today watching this drama unfold, while still being in a COVID state of mind, we have to find ourselves in a certain moment of coming to Jesus, a soul searching, a step back, focus and then react. And in our possession of humanity, our ability to deal with this, because it's no longer safe for us to hold on to any form of conflict in our character, because we can walk out that door, have a bad day, say the wrong thing, and end up with a hate crime, and or be on a no-fly list, or end up with a felony. So understand that we're in very interesting times, and what's more interesting than anything else is the mere fact that, we always talked about how everyone that came to this country with the desire to be something, to get away from something that, if nothing else, they could not live anymore with, and they were perfectly good with seeing you go. That's how we all got here. That's our story. We came here from persecution. Oh, we did this and the other. And I found it kind of odd that when you hear the real story, they did too. Not only did they did too, but hell, they couldn't either come in and get like help from the Obamas or something else like that. No, they had to get Tyler Perry. Oh, y'all ain't with me on this one. This is way past the Black Lives Matter. This is also about, Black Women's Month. And so Oprah gets that one, but she gets it with Tyler Perry. I'm with that. I can do that. And that's where I'm at with that. Now, follow me now. And this is a struggle that, while you see it with Harry and Meghan and Oprah and the Queen and Harry's daddy, the one who had his mama killed while he was living in the Snickers of some country white woman, and had a nerve to cut him off. No, man, I don't like you, man. Later for you. That's some dogged out stuff, but it's the same story for many of these people out here that believe that they need so much therapy right now. Because, they might not have had the greatest family, but it was better than a lot of other people. And that's why they're here too. And now their stories are our stories. And I think about how little Meghan had to deal with that black part of her while she had to stay in this mindset where she did not soil herself and her reputation from childhood to being able to announce the creation and the expectations of a baby girl. Now I got a white boy and I've got a white girl. No matter their genetics, these are royals. And that in itself is something that many a person of color can't even imagine how that would be. How do you raise your children to have absolutely, positively no error and opportunity to even believe anyone can question your genetics, no matter how black you are? And this is where we're at as a world now, not just a country, a world. And the real deep part about that is it's not like any of these people are some bottom shelf people we should just basically be offended with actually being in any way concerned for them, due to the mere fact that Harry's a cool dude. And Meghan, yeah, okay, I can see that, but I'm a black guy. I'm extremely black. I walk with my buttocks. Anyway, and be capable of being in the same company now, because we're in a whole new world, baby. We're in a whole new world. And in the process of that, realizing that, if you're religious, ain't God good, even if you didn't want him to be this good, because while he may not give you what you want, he's been giving this world a lot more of what we need. And what we need to do is pay attention into the evolution into which we are being granted right now, and stand up and represent it more than every other stigma that we've been raised with by our traditions, our protocols, our genetic superiority. Because we got no choice, because it's not about us, it's about our kids' kids, and our kids' kids, when we find ourselves being able to be capable of allowing our genetics to melt with others, and to the point where we can finally form ourselves back into the state that we were originally born in, with an upgrade. And, and it not end up being James T. Kirk, Captain of the Enterprise. Come on, man. At least get Idris in there. That'd be hot. You see Idris in the green, 3-titty alien, yeah. I'm sorry, I went off left, didn't I? Where was I? I was talking about Oprah. I was talking about Meghan. I was talking about Prince Harry. I was talking about the Queen. I was talking about the Prince, because the Prince ain't a king, and his mama ain't gonna never die. She ain't gonna never die. They're gonna keep her alive until he dies. And if that ever happens, they'll get rid of him. It's just got to make sure that they got the right boy up in there, and Lord help them. If Harry had to be put into that position, because that's way too much for them. Kind of like the way that I, have been always offered the ability to go into the clergy. And while I would always sit back and say, yeah, this sounds kind of good. Ooh, baby, you be a good preacher. Oh, you could, we make so much money. Oh, this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, why won't you do that? And it was like, because the way that we're structured in even our religious and business and social kind of structures today is still on a level of classism. And in the meantime, I would not be capable of just reading from the manuals into which you only provide at your denomination either. I would have to bring a whole buttload of all this. We'd have to get undressed on a Friday night. We wouldn't get dressed again until it was time for us to go to church on Sunday morning, if that's what you did. But, through the whole thing, we would rejoice and get into the whole thing that we're speaking of right now. When you sit back and you think about the mere fact that what I love the most about that And this whole story of,
Just out of curiosity,
you know,
make me lose control at the hearing of your
the
allow for me to wish I was the sheets of paper to rest your thoughts upon. Make my knees buckle when you speak metaphorically. Raise my eyebrows because of the way you pronounce big words,
being
as well as use them properly.
pimpishly dominant practitioner in the BDSM realm and the whole nine. Sometimes you can see a little deeper than most people can. And when you see love, and when you see a good, passionate person, these people are making babies. And when they're making babies, they are making babies intentionally. And to realize that there's the amount of love that it would take for somebody to walk away from everything and go hide behind this black guy in America out of fear that everything that they needed to have been protected from old world standards were more of a threat, although we don't play that shit over here. You know. And there's another one of those kind of tidbits of Black Lives Mattering, because it's not so much about the mere fact that we have black celebrities, but we also have a market for more people to be in more secured state. And when you think about the mere fact that, well, the state of art security to date that Tyler had was at least good enough for a couple of days for the prince to get to a safe place because because the queen would not. Wow, that's some over 007 kind of, things when you think about how deep. Now, I'm a little older now, so I get to look back at people and try to struggle with wishing that, man, when you see those old people, I've become that guy. I've become those people that would look at other people and say, man, I wish, we could trade places. Man, if I had your hand, I'd throw my hand in. If I could only be. But youth is wasted on a youth for real. And what was wasted on Harry was the scary, very scary, of knowing that I could lose my wife like I lost my mother. Come on, man. Ain't enough money on this doggone planet for you to be able to sit back and tell me that, that's some serious stuff. I mean, there's people out here be crying for therapy for less. And they holding it. And there's probably more to the story, but wondering, okay, so have they thought of a name for their daughter? The love of Harry's life. Come on, man. If you're a person, if you're a parent, you can understand right now the struggle many of us are lucky in what we do when we find someone and we make a life in our society. We are pretty cool because we don't have to go through a plethora of all the other struggles that exist in this world. And yet these people live front central of it. And the more difficult thing to do is to actually be able to enlighten, educate, and entertain many of the people like ourselves who only see this from, the little sound bites of what we, man, so what? What does that really have to do with the price of tea in China? Whose tea did we throw off the shores? I'll wait. This message is brought to you by Australian for beer. One of the other places that they were allowed to go and, and be under the supervision that came with the security, that before they can even pull that off, they found that security is gone. What do? Oh my God, we out here with our butt out, I'm thinking that I have to stay in between my wife and my baby in order to keep them safe because they've lost their security. They're up for grabs. They're just as free and fair game as his mama was in that time, that era. But now we're here, and we're trying to, and I'm in their head with this one because I'm like, wow, ain't nobody raised that poor boy to be ready for this kind of struggle. This is past all of those little books that King Arthur's and anything else like that right now. And this is a very interesting time. I mean, just spiritually, just theatrically, just religiously, you know, and, you know, no matter how much we want to talk about these people, their income and their lifestyle doesn't change if we don't. And yet, many of the things that we believe that we want to be, oh, I'm a queen, hey king, hey queen, hey this, that, and the other. Listen to what I'm saying here. We talk about Prince. Most of y'all just Prince Hall. No offense. But understand here that this is some deepness that I'm watching in how it's being played out, because, you know, not that it's just on them, but, you know, we have a say as to how we see, you know, by the dawn's early light. We really do, you know, because, you know, even Prince Harry had to find out that we are the land of the free and the home of the brave. And it was brave of them to actually be able to step out of their comfort zone from what they were to Tyler Perry house. Just because he had good security. He had a whole place. I'm over here in Atlanta making bank, baby. We got it going on. And got them to a point where they could finally get there. Oh no, we would not have that. We can't have you sitting over there having to, you know, be at the charity of these black people. No, we'll hook you up. Good. You're supposed to. You know, but, you know, a lot of black people probably ain't gonna feel me when I sit back and I say, you know, there's a lot of white people out there that really honestly wish that you could understand how it feels to really be feeling you, knowing that they got parents that really honestly can look them in the face and go, I don't like you, you're dead to me, this, that, and the other, and really, you know, we think that, you know, oh, these people are evil or this, that, and the other. They're evil to their own people. You know, these people want to be just as much a free and who we are as we are. And we so doggone adamant about trying to get this that we gotta speak for our damn selves. Why? Because if we speak for our damn selves, maybe they can get behind or with us and we can all get this shit, but it's not going to happen without us. And it's time for everybody in the world to understand that. I don't mean that every person on this planet that looks like me or someone else, it rates the same kind of thing, but they get the provisions of whatever humanity we follow. Nothing less. And, you know, there are moments of time that I watched Meghan and then I watched Harry. And when Harry got with Meghan and I'm sitting there and I'm realizing these people live together every day, you know, as a black single man, wishing that I could actually have, you know, a wife, not up to the state of Meghan, but, you know, just imagine us and, you know, you got a sister in the house and, you know, they's raising the babies and the whole nine and they don't have all this. And, you know, imagine, you know, moments that she was trying to struggle with not having a sister moment when all these cracker ass people wasn't trying to help her or her baby, you know, and the son was stuck somewhere else. He come home and he's like, what's wrong? And everybody said they want a good man. Well, Harry was a good enough man that he said, you know what? Stop the press. Come on, Mom. Oh my God. You know, and when he said, I feared for my wife as I feared happened to my mother. And yeah, You know, fair game in a tunnel was where they headed had they not found at least Tyler Perry for a quick minute. You go, Tyler. So I think I've done about 40-something minutes, and I know I've gone a little long in this, and I don't know if this is going to sound good or not. Don't really matter right now. What really matters is that I'm sending positive energy to each and every one of y'all, and at least the ability for you to allow yourself to open yourself up to a very uncomfortable change. It's a sacrifice that we as humanity are going to have an understanding that we've got a lot of reconditioning that we have to do. I mean, we all have this thing, but a lot of us, this post-traumatic slave syndrome, it's not just for black folks. Because right now, you know, there's a little bit of that going on with even Mr. Harry. Prince Harry. It's even going on with his brothers who grew up with him all this time. And up until he married that black girl from America, I'm not really quite sure anybody's really feeling the depth of how, if we don't get over this as not just a race, but as a people, it's affecting everybody, whether you like it or not. And we're evolving into that direction, whether you like it or not. And yet, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for anyone. You know, there are more people that would have basically gotten out of that because, you know, I had to marry Oyvind because he was a good provider, even though I loved Vinny. And we know those jokes to be so true in so many places that here we sit watching this theatrics happen in our everyday world and realizing that now that we're getting a little more of the story. And then you go back and you do a timeline when you were feeling how we've gone through a whole lot in the past couple of years. All of us have had our own personal little journey of going through a lot in the past couple of years. And then go back and watch how they was going through a lot too. You wouldn't have never even thought about it. You would have never even seen it had it not been for the mere fact that you were so deep into your own stuff that you can't look back and see how they was going through it too. And the things that was making you go through what you were going through were the things were also affecting them too. We were going through this all over the planet as the planet has been more and more allowed to see the struggle and the humanity and the understandings of how awkward it is for many of us as a people, and I mean as humans all over this planet, to realize that this struggle just don't stop on anybody's border, you know. And now that we're in this state where no holds are barred, and you know, now you can be with whoever you want to be, and yet remembering how quick we stopped mourning the loss of Diana. And then looking at this boy who's been mourning the loss of Diana all his life, with a woman that he loves who just happens to be of color. Of color enough that the color in him attracted him to her and her to him, whether they liked it or not, while they was trying to be slick and just slide some color into their genetics. You know, kill the cow and keep the milk. And now we're watching this in full play today. And wow. I recall living at least in a state where I remembered old people who had this beaten kind of mentality where they believed that none of this would even be possible enough to even consider how entertaining it would be to watch the rest of the white world struggle with how Black Lives Matter. But on Women's Month, Oprah, Meghan, and Harry gets a big up on this one, because technically speaking, if you can't get what's going on right now, you don't really matter. So this is WNDC. NDC. WNDC stands for We in the Crib and You Ain't. If you feel that anything that I've said or done has been enlightening, entertaining, educational, or anything of that nature, please, due to the mere fact that this COVID situation has placed me here in a state of unemployment, I've been bold enough to find a reason to do this in hopes that someone could find the ability to reach out and bless others, and if you can, then I promise I'll try to be a better person, reach more people, and do what I need to do because, this is as good as it needs to get. WNDC. We in the crib and you ain't. And we're all in our cribs now. But our cribs are now included with everything out there. We've invited them into their home and we pushed play when we turned it on. And for that reason, here we are in our homes, realizing you're not alone in the struggle. But every little thing that you want to keep on your plate is also what's keeping us into this state of not being able to have more than we've got less, and we're not going to stand for it. And so for that reason, I'm sending out the positive energy, and I'm wishing all of y'all whatever we need to get to the next level. You good? Woo. You good?